Welcome, everyone. Welcome once again to In Touch. Once again, Dr. John Nowicki is with us. Nowicki Wellness and Chiropractic.
You betcha.
Education first. Right?
Yeah, well, exactly, because if patients don't know that they've got a problem that could respond to the care that we do,
that's right.
I mean, how would they even come in?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you
Good
don't
point.
know that an alternative tool to solve your problem's available, you ain't buying it. So that's what we're here. We're here to explain what we do so that you can make a choice as to whether you want more drugs, more surgery, or something else.
Sure.
Okay? And it don't matter in my eyes if we can take a different path and get there safer. Wouldn't you take that path if you were driving a car? Well, you can take this dangerous one through this dangerous neighborhood or the river that's swollen and flooding the road, or you can go a safer path. In healthcare, how do you know a safer path? It's malpractice. That's what it's at. What do you pay for your malpractice insurance?
Yeah.
Okay, I can tell you, chiropractic is the cheapest primary entry point in the healthcare system for malpractice insurance. Hey, how cool is that?
Yeah.
When you go to my clinic, it's a safe zone. Not because I say it is, but because the actuarial scientists that determine malpractice insurance rates say it is. Okay? Compare my insurance coverage, which is for a really good policy. I think I'm paying like $3,500, $3,600 a year.
Yeah.
Right? MDs, 25 years ago when I came up here, were around 25, 30,000, according to the head of the Upper Peninsula Health Plan at the time. So, 20 years later, I'm still about 15% of what they were 20 years ago. It's a safe place. Why is it safe in our clinic? First of all, we're going to do a thorough case history. We're going to do a thorough examination. Okay? And, if necessary, we're going to take pictures of your spine, x-rays. And even that's safe in my clinic. We've got full digital, which saves you retakes because we can create an image, alter it, massage it, so to speak, using the advanced software. Whereas in the years past, man, you took an image, it wasn't good, you had to retake it. All right?
Yeah.
Not anymore. All right? And I've got great staff. We don't have to retake many x-rays, but if we do, man, the x-ray dosage is extremely low. And here's what that does for you. When we see on x-ray what's going on with your spine, we don't have to guess. You wouldn't want a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon guessing. We don't guess either at my clinic because I want safety first, and then we can get the results. Because I want to be fully confident when we start doing the protocols that we're doing to rehabilitate your spine, that they're going to be the right ones for you. And you can only know that with taking the right x-rays.
If you don't do that, it's almost like being blindfolded, isn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't trust your surgeon going in blindfolded, would you?
Well, not really, no.
Yeah.
No.
I think you've got a shoulder problem. We're not going to do any studies on it. We'll just cut you open and kind of figure it out from there. You wouldn't
Well, that
want...
didn't work, but you have another one.
Yeah, you got two of them. So, you only have one spine.
Yeah.
We don't have room to spare there. There's no guesswork. The ambiguity ends when you walk in my office. And that applies to another real hot topic. You were talking about Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah.
Man, that guy missed a whole lot of time, a whole lot of races because of a concussion, right?
Right.
And what's interesting was he didn't have just one hit to his head. They don't know which hit caused it.
Yeah.
It probably was more than one. They think it's just the bouncing along at high speed. Even though those tracks are super butter smooth, when you're going at close to 200 miles an hour, every little ripple is magnified. And that constant, continually micro trauma to the brain created issues. All right, and you can get those issues off of one concussion, one hit to the head, okay, or multiples building up.
If constant hitting. Huh?
Yeah, repetitive. They call it chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and that was a term that was developed back when the Steelers were being analyzed as they started dying and committing suicide.
Yeah.
And that's out of the movie Concussion. If you watch that movie, you'll get kind of a really nice historical review of how the concussion issue came about, how we became more aware of it. back in my day in sports, the coaches would hold up 2 fingers and say, how many fingers I got up? And you always knew it was 2. I mean, you could be blind, deaf, and dumb, and you go 2, and you'd go back out there and get hit again and again and again. And that's what happened with Mike Webster, who was the starting point for the movie Concussion. They estimated he had something like 70,000 hits to the head from the start of Pee Wee football to the end of his pro career. Okay? Now, let's say you play half that time. Okay? You finish high school and you played since Pee Wee. Well, that's 35,000 hits to the head. That's a lot of traumatic encephalopathy that can result.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So, what's the best way of preventing damage? Getting a baseline test. But if you do the ones that the NFL is using, man, you're talking about the impact test, the best test, you're going to get NFL results, which are vegetables for adults and lawsuits. In the billions right now, the NFL is settling. All right? So in my clinic, we use the new gold standard test, and while that's great, and it's accepted in our country, cleared in our country, Canada, the European Union, Australia, New Zealand are working it through and being cleared as well. We do more testing beyond that. And as an EMT trained in the past, one of the things they taught us was that whenever there was a head trauma, you needed to assume that there was a neck trauma as well.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we'd stiff neck them. We'd put them in a stiff neck collar.
Sure.
Before they got x-rayed on transporting them. Okay, so why would we do that? Because you didn't want a fracture or some other type of an issue that was going unprotected while you're driving in the ambulance. All right. So in my office, if you've had a concussion, we're going to do some advanced testing, some advanced vision of the spine. We're going to do motion x-rays of the spine to determine which bones are moving too much, too little, okay, and work up a care plan to get that corrected.
Sure.
Because the neurological journals recommend that every time you have a concussion, you do a thorough evaluation of the neck. And here's the problem. Neurosurgeons will tell you that it's neurosurgery all the way down to the 3rd cervical, because your brainstem extends down through the spinal canal, okay, through a hole in your head, literally, called the foramen magnum, all the way to the 3rd cervical. And you cannot tell a difference between a cerebral, a brain concussion, and a brainstem concussion. The symptoms are identical. So if you're not checking the upper neck, physically checking it with your hands, palpating it, looking for swelling, spasm, tenderness, looking for altered motion with the x-rays,
Right.
you're just not doing what they recommend as far as the evidence-based literature. And above all else, we're evidence-based at my clinic. It's just too important. Concussions, euphemistically, you'd call them dingers. Oh, I got my bell rung. Those are all minimizing terms. When it's your brain or your child's brain that's injured from a concussion, there's nothing to minimize there in my book. You need to have them analyzed correctly, and that's what we do. Now, if your child is in a athletic group, and you'd like to hear more information on this, if you call my office, 779-1300, we will set up a talk in which I will come and do a 10-minute presentation. We can do them longer with a slideshow, but I can do them with a 10-minute presentation without a slideshow and review this with you in way more detail. And the problem with concussions is it's moving so fast with all the information coming out. And people will say, well, I got a baseline test. I get it. Okay, but you probably had an impact test or a best test, and again, that's NFL-type results we're looking for, and your kids deserve better than that.
Could it be in that age group, the young age years, that you do the most damage to yourself
Yeah.
without even knowing it?
Well, yeah,
Or
exactly.
realizing it, rather.
And I think that's what the literature is going to show
Yeah.
in the future. Because, first of all, you're more prone to getting a concussion the younger you are.
And you're more active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's funny is a big percent of these concussions happen in practice, not out at the
Yeah.
playing field.
Yep.
Okay, so you don't have the press coverage there. You don't have the parents watching and saying, hey, my kid looks like he's not stable after getting up from that hit. there's not as much oversight, and coaches can't be watching every second. And frankly, they don't have the training I do. All right. So, and I love coaches. They're virtually all required to go through the basic CDC training, but I've done a lot more than that, especially with X-ray analysis. So if you want to hear more about this, call the office. We do 10-minute talks, write to groups, and I love making donations to groups. It doesn't have to be just football, basketball, hockey. It goes on and on the list. Soccer. They're all prone to getting hit. Softball, the impacts that players take, they run into each other going for fly balls, you name it. There's a lot of ways to get concussed. I've gotten a fair number of mine snowboarding and car accidents. All right, which if you've listened to this any length of time, I love working with car accident victims, car crash victims. We get great results. And part of that is the advanced work we do to detect concussions so they can get the care they need. So if you want that safeguard for your children, and the safeguard I'm talking about is knowledge, not just a standard baseline, run-of-the-mill baseline test for your child, which, by the way, I've seen children that pass the baseline test at 99% at a local pediatric clinic that outright failed our testing. Okay, so don't trust just one. You got to get a second opinion. If your child's cleared to play, well, I think the number was 18 last year, died on the field from second concussion syndrome, from being cleared to play, still having functional problems that then resulted in brain swelling and killed that child right on the field. Okay, that's not where you want to be making decisions, is when you see your child down on the field. That's a terrible place to be. And 18 families lost their children last year from not being more thorough, not digging a little deeper, making sure that it was absolutely safe for that child to go back. Okay. You
need the right tools, right, to finish any job.
Yeah, and that's why we invest them in the clinic.
Yeah,
why
that's where I was going with that, yeah.
Yeah, the X-ray testing that's done, you want the top end for that when you're testing patients, when you're doing the detailed analysis that we do. The balance testing, the testing that we do, the medical testing for the concussion analysis, absolutely. You want gold standard for that. You don't want to be guessing, well, my child took this computer test, and those are basically IQ tests. The Athletic Trainers Association, their guidelines say you don't want to do a test on a computer, testing that brain. That brain is damaged, it's injured. You'd never tear a biceps and say, hey, to see if you can go back to play, we're going to do a 1-rep max, and, the day after you tear that biceps. It takes time to heal. And what we're doing is we're testing these brains, we're stressing them right after concussions to see if they can go back to play. That's just not what the literature says you should be doing, and it's not what we do at our clinic. Okay, so again, if you want to hear more about this topic, okay, and get a donation to your club, your sporting club, I'd be happy to come talk about it. In fact, if your child isn't part of a sporting club, but they've fallen off a bike, they've slipped on ice, they've been snowboarding recreationally, and they've taken hits to head, I'll be happy to come and talk to any group on this subject. Your child's brain health is way too important not to. So I'll take time out of my day and come to your church group. If you're a pastor listening and you want your flock to have the best information possible, give us a call. All right, 779-1300.
Education is so important. But you pride yourself in making sure that all your patients know exactly what you're doing in treatment.
Yeah, they need
and why you're doing it.
To make an informed consent, they have to.
Right.
All right, too often it's just jam, and shove people through the system without questioning it. Don't question anything we're doing, like the Wizard of Oz, don't question me. In my clinic, I want you to know why we're doing what we're doing and what the goals are. All right?
Yeah.
You got to have the information out there to make the right choice.
That's right. Exactly right.
Okay.
And I do thank you for your time, Doctor, and your expertise.
Thanks for having me. We'll see you next month.
You bet we will. Dr. John Nowicki with us. Nowicki Chiropractic and Wellness. And for In Touch, I'm Aaron Harper.